what's going on YouTube? So today I'm going to be building on a FrankenVyne chassis that was bought off eBay, but this one I bought from a friend locally. So what this chassis does, it's a conversion kit to a drag. You need a B6 Associated chassis. So pick this one up. Along with the chassis, it all come together. I got it for a few $100. The chassis go on eBay right now for $310, I believe. You can pick up a used stripped B6 chassis. This is a B6.1 chassis. You can pick them up for in between $200 and $300. So what my plan is for today is I'm going to take, it comes with your aluminum bulkhead, your shock mount, and I've picked up the TSG Carbon Works front bumper, body posts, and to put all this together, some 2mm front spacers for the B6 arms, because there's a little bit of a gap in between the arm and the block that it's going to mount to. So if you guys don't mind, come along. I'll show you guys what to do with this and see if we can get a fast car today. I'm going to take the B6 chassis. I'm going to start removing the front bulkhead because that's the part that I'm going to work on today. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to start removing the entire bulkhead. So if yours has wheels and tires, you'll obviously have to remove them. This one does not, so I'm going to take a 2mm and I'm going to start removing these screws down here. It's a lot easier if you've got like an impact driver or Walmart impact driver. So all the screws that you remove from this, you're going to want to hold on to because they're going to be put on the other chassis. All right, so after you remove this piece, going to be left with something like that. You're going to remove those two screws. Actually, Jared does have an impact driver. So now I've got the bottom part of my bulkhead loose. It's not falling out, obviously, because you've got stuff up here to take off. There is going to be two screws up top just behind your shock tower. What I'll do now is I will take my 5.5, remove the shocks from the shock tower here. I'm just doing this to give myself just a little more clearance. Now I'm going to remove the screws in the steering. Now the 4 screws that are going to come out of this shock mount are actually going to go into this shock mount. Also, if you guys are building this, if you look on the bulkhead block for the new chassis, there's going to be 2 different orientations you could do it. But if you see the holes are lower here than if I flip them over, they're higher. I'm going to install mine on the high side so I can put these pins in and these arms will operate. Since I've got that removed, I'm going to go ahead and pull the 4 screws out of this and mount my shock mount to the other bulkhead, the aluminum one. You are going to need some Loctite. Anytime you put a metal screw into a metal part, you always want Loctite. Always want Loctite. On the back side, there's 4 holes. There's 5 holes in the bottom of your shock mount, but I'm just going to take this, put a little bit of Loctite on it. I'm going to take my shock mount. I just noticed that this is not chamfered. I'm going to try to find some screws that are fairly close to the same length. I'm going to show you this here, the differences in these 2 screws. So you don't know what I'm talking about why I gotta use a different screw, this screw, see how it's got the taper? Well, with this shock mount, you can't use a tapered screw. You gotta use a flat-headed screw. So if you see this here it is flat here, whereas the other one's got the taper to it. And that's what it'll look like when it's done. So obviously the chamfered side is going to be the bottom, the flat side is going to be the top. So I'm going to take this and line up the holes. I'm going to throw a screw in. Really hoping this works. The screw does look extremely long. Not going to work. I'm at a standstill. So what I'm doing now is I'm just pulling the front bulkhead apart completely and pull each section off like such and such. So for these arms to be used, you're going to have a 2mm spacer, which I'm going to see if we took the stock spacer and cut a washer out of it, if that would work. And that would work perfect. So if you took this stock bulkhead spacer or A-arm spacer and just cut the rings off of it, it'll work in theory. So I pulled 4 screws from here to use in the bulkhead to mount it up. I pre-mounted it to make sure they would work, and they do. The only thing I wasn't sure about, so I actually mounted these different, is the spacer location. So you need a 2mm spacer in between your arms and your bulkhead. So I've got one, if you see, set in the back and one set in the front, but that's going to change. I'm trying to figure out where it needs to be. So that's what it's going to look like when you put the 4 bolts. And like I said, I just pulled it from a couple pieces of plastic molding. I am going to try to reuse the stock steering arms and servo placement. I don't know if that's a good idea, but I'm going to try it anyway. Actually, I'm nearly 100% positive it's not going to be a good idea. I'm going to start working on the rear end. So now we are to the rear of the buggy. We will need, absolutely will need, a 4mm trans spacer. So now we're going to go to work and start pulling this off. I'm just going to pull all the screws from here back. Hopefully I don't break anything or lose anything. So my phone quit recording, but this here is a picture of the back of the transmission. That's the 4mm riser. And this here is, if you see that gap right there, you're going to need 20mm screws. Here's a top view. This here is the front. And this is the underside, showing you all the mounting points. So if you guys like the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. And there will be links to my new videos. And thank you guys for watching.